Hey, Chris. For real? You're in the camera. Kimby. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Lions defense heading into the 2021 offseason and season, and what kind of massive overhaul we could be in for. So let's get it started.
I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And today we're going to be talking about the Lions defense heading into this offseason. So we've been doing these mock drafts. We've been doing these mock offseasons, these signings, cuts and all this stuff. And this stuff is great. But I thought about it. Someone sent me a mock draft, right? And they said they are going with the Lions playing a 4-3 base defense. So that's how they drafted their team. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we do a video about this? Why don't we talk about this? Because, we continue to do these mock offseason, mock drafts, but what are we building towards? We have to know what we're building towards. What players would fit for what we're going? Now, I don't know where Aaron Glenn's going to go with this defense. I'm not saying I know Aaron Glenn's going to run a 3-4 or a 4-3. I don't know what he's going to do. I really don't. We do our mock offseasons, mock drafts. When I do my mock offseasons from now on, I think it's important to note what kind of defense we're building towards, because that's the biggest question. So Aaron Glenn is coming in from New Orleans as their secondary coach to be our new defensive coordinator. And we're definitely expecting some changes. When you're the worst defense you've ever put up in franchise history, changes are going to be made, regardless of how the scheme changes, okay? Even if you're saying the same scheme, changes are going to be made. Certain roster moves are going to be made, and obviously you need to coach better. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Aaron Glenn is coming from New Orleans, who ran a 4-3 defense, right? We know that. He has also worked with a 3-4 before, so it's not like that's his only background. He's even said it that, he's well diverse. So Aaron Glenn told us this. He said that he would basically fit the scheme to the players, not the players to the scheme. So basically, he's going to try to put the players that he has on his roster in the best position to be successful. But clearly, he has to be going somewhere with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't know who to cut, who to sign, who to trade, who to draft. I mean, how would you know if you don't know what defense you're going towards? You just grabbing random players. So I thought we'd talk about that in today's video. The scheme could stay the same, and we know where we're at. But what if it did change to a 4-man defensive front? I mean, it's very possible it does. Again, I'm not here to say it will, but what if it does? What does that mean for our team? Initially, I'm thinking, well, that means it's going to be blown up. And I'm okay with that. If you're going to blow it up, doing it in the first year. I'm thinking it's going to be blown up. But I've actually, as I've researched each player individually, I think there are certain players on this roster that maybe haven't got much of a chance, but also players that I think that can actually benefit from a 4-3 change. Not all of them, but I think some can. So maybe it's not a complete, massive, everybody's gone if you switch the scheme. It could still mean that actually certain players that we weren't expecting benefit from the change. So let's take a look at it. Let's start off with the defensive line first. I was watching a lot of New Orleans Saints film today, trying to see what they did defensively. So I want to first talk about the defensive line first. In New Orleans, Hendrickson, and they have Cameron Jordan. Those are the defensive ends. We would have Trey Flowers, assuming Romeo Okwara signed back. Romeo Okwara will be back. Those guys would be your defensive ends, okay? No question about it. You can make the case they're a little bit too small, for a 4-3, but they'd be in here, okay? Because usually 4-3 has those long defensive ends. They'll be your starting defensive ends. Trey Flowers ain't going nowhere. Okay, that guy signed to too big of a contract. He ain't going nowhere. And if Romeo's back, he'll start. He praised both of them. He also said that Trey Flowers could bump to a 3 technique, he believes. So there's versatility there. So those guys would be your defensive ends. Nothing wrong with that. However, that moves you to defensive tackle. And now this is where things get interesting, because before it was nose tackle. Now it would be 2 defensive tackles if they went to a 4-down man front, right? So who does this benefit and who does it will not benefit? Well, let's start off with the top guy first. That's Danny Shelton. He signed to a 2-year deal. He's got 1 year left. He actually played pretty well considering how bad the defense was last season, but he was brought in as a pure nose tackle from New England. He fit the scheme, a pure nose tackle. If you went to a 4-3, he just doesn't fit. I mean, it's just simple that he does not fit a 4-3 defense. And the Lions could save about $4 million releasing him. I think if they switched to a 4-3, he would be one of the first guys that were cut, which stinks because I actually think he played pretty well when you take a look at how bad the defense was as a whole. I thought he gave a lot of really good effort, but he would be one of the first guys released. Same thing with Nick Williams. I think Nick Williams gets released regardless. There's certain players like that, whether we say the same scheme or, however we change this scheme, certain players I think will be cut. And I think Nick Williams is one of those guys. He only gives you a $1 million dead cap, and he also saves you over $4 million. I mean, I just think he'll be released. But then that moves you to John Pennicini. And I hate to say this because he wouldn't fit, right? At least you wouldn't think. He's coming from Utah as a nose tackle. He weighs almost 320 pounds, and he looked pretty good in the flashes that we saw him last season, right? He looked like the future at nose tackle for us. But now that that scheme is gone, does John Pennicini fit? Now, I know, well, he's just, he's late round pick. It doesn't matter. he is a late round pick, but he also played pretty well. I mean, this guy's going to be valuable. He's going to be very valuable to a team out there that needs a nose tackle. Now, could he fit a 4.3? The only way I see him fitting a 4.3 is if he loses some weight, tries to lose like 18, 20 pounds, get closer to 300, and then you use his ability, which is stopping the run really well and filling the gaps, as a DT because he's a little bit more agile than at that size. But otherwise, I mean, I really don't think he'd be able to fit. So that's one of the biggest bummers about going to a 4.3. However, it could mean good for some players. Those players would include Ja'Shawn Cornell. Now, I know we haven't seen Cornell play yet for the Lions, so, this is kind of a difficult one to say. But if we stayed in a 3-4, he probably wasn't going to start, Even if he played last season, he wouldn't start over Romeo or Trey. And, if Romeo's brought back, do you think he'd start over those two guys? Probably not. I mean, you never know, but probably not. So what would a 4.3 do for him? Well, he's not going to play nose tackle. So a 4.3, I believe, could actually fit him really well. He was at high school. He's 6'3", 285 pounds, a defensive tackle that's known for the ability to get after the quarterback, great hand usage. This is the type of player that could be your pass rushing DT on that 4-man front. He could have just competed for the defensive end spot, but like I said, he probably wouldn't have started there if Romeo was signed back. However, he has a legit shot to start at the defensive tackle spot for next season. I mean, we haven't seen how well he plays, but we know that he's been successful in that before with the Buckeyes. So I just thought, hey, this could actually benefit for him. Personally, this gives him a really good shot to potentially start. Also, Deshaun Hand. Now, Deshaun Hand has dealt with some injuries, so it's not his fault. When I say Deshaun, when I say it like that, Deshaun Hand, now he's dealt with some injuries, but I can tell you this, Deshaun Hand, just like Madden, I think he could bump into defense tackle as well for similar reasons to Ja'Shawn Cornell. Wasn't going to start at the defensive end spot, but you know that he could get some pressure. You put him at defensive tackle. Maybe he puts on a little bit more size, maybe. But honestly, man, you would think that he'd be a pretty good switch right to defensive tackle as a guy that can, again, get after the quarterback from the inside. Because when we've talked about this before in the past, I thought, well, you're going to need a guy that can get after the quarterback to switch defense. But how was I forgetting about Deshaun Hand and Ja'Shawn Cornell? Like, come on, this is what I'm talking about, because I forgot. Kevin Strong, another guy. Now, I don't think Kevin Strong maybe has the pass rushing abilities as a Deshaun Hand or maybe even a Ja'Shawn Cornell, but Kevin Strong, I think, could also potentially benefit for just maybe more opportunity here. And you know that he could play on the outside too, I think, if you had to. Some guys wouldn't benefit. Unfortunately, Penasini wouldn't. And unless he can become a little bit quicker and lose some weight, I really don't know how he'd fit. But I do think he would even have value in the trade market coming off of only 1 year, which is sting, though. I wouldn't want to lose Penasini. So just because of that alone, the Lions could honestly rethink, okay, maybe we don't want to move to a 4-3. And you could talk to him, hey, do you think you could bump to a 4-3 with us if we did it? But that moves us back to the linebacker position. And the linebacker position has another very interesting name. You probably know who it is. It's Jelani Tavai. Jelani Tavai, coming off his second year, had a little bit of a rough second year, but, I mean, for the most part, the defense did. However, how would a 4-3 impact him? I think it kind of takes away any role he had. I don't know how he plays in a 4-3 defense. The reason this guy was drafted is because he fit the scheme so well. But he's not very athletic, not super fast, but he fit the scheme well. That's why the Patriots were reportedly interested. Same scheme. However, now that that is out in a 4-3 defense, I don't know how beneficial he'd be. Because he's not that fast to play as an outside backer. I think he's got pretty good awareness. He's a pretty good tackler, but it's really because in a 4-3-3-4 defense, you're drafting these bigger, heavy set, linebackers that are really long, a little bit slower, because that you got 4 linebackers on the field. But in a 4-3 set, you don't have that. You're usually going maybe smaller, quicker linebackers, maybe better pass rushers. I think it takes away a legit role from Jelani Tavai. And I hate to say that because, hey, I think the guy's got potential, but it could take a role. However, it could benefit some other guys. Jimmy Collins, I think, stays the same. I think Collins can play in any scheme. I just think he's that talented. He can do a lot of different things, and I think he can play in any scheme. As long as he's not headbutting refs, he should be on the field for you. Guy's not on the roster, but I really do believe he's going to be re-signed regardless of the scheme change, and that's Jarrad Davis, but especially in a 4-3. Now, I know that he looks like he's better as an outside player, an edge guy that get up to quarterback, and that could still be his role, outside backer in a 4-3, 3-4, that could be his role. However, you do go to 4-3, don't count out the fact that he could still try to compete for that Mike linebacker spot. Not saying he should get it or he would earn it, but that's why he was drafted. This guy was drafted for the Mike linebacker spot, then only got 1 season to play in his natural spot until Matt Patricia came in the next season, changed the defensive scheme. He was all out of whack. And now you saw last season, yeah, he did okay, but hey, he didn't have much of a role whatsoever. They just took a lot of his role away. But if you did go to a 4-3, again, not saying he get the role, but it'd be a beautiful opportunity for him to try to push for that spot because he could say, hey, wait a minute, I can play that role. I remember this role. I remember that. So, again, it's just maybe an opportunity for him. Jalen Reese-Maybin, very forgotten, still under contract. I think Jalen Reese-Maybin could benefit as well. Drafted once again like Jarrad Davis for a 4-3 scheme, but also has the quickness to play as an outside backer. pretty good in coverage. He's been good for special teams as well. I don't know much else in that. I think there's a lot of unknowns there, but he was drafted for that type of scheme. So I would think it could help him potentially land more of a role defensively. Another guy that it could hurt, however, Reggie Ragland. I just don't think Ragland will be brought back unless Mark Delhomme being here is enough to bring him back. I don't think he will be. Also, same thing with Christian Jones. I think regardless of the scheme, he's gone anyways, but especially at 4-3, he's just a bigger, edge, type of defender. There's two big question marks that we got to touch on here, and I put them both in the linebacker category. You can put him on defensive end if you want, but that's Austin Bryant and Julian Okwara. Now, let's start with Austin Bryant first, because I think, he might be a little bit easier to explain. Austin Bryant, he's dealt with some injuries in the past, but we really haven't seen that much of an impact for him defensively. I mean, we've seen some good special teams plays, but not really defensively. So you're wondering, okay, how much is there really of a future here for Austin Bryant? And he was drafted for the Patricia scheme, which was maybe a little bit surprising because coming out of the draft, he looked like a 4-3 type of defensive end, but he was drafted for that scheme. And, he's come in, he's had some injury issues, but he's made some big plays. But for the most part, where have we seen him? Well, we've seen him go against offensive tackles. He lines up straight against offensive tackles this time that he is on the field. Lions do put him out there. They seem to line him up usually as a defensive end against from a tackle. The issue with this, however, is that he's not good at getting pass rush. Okay, he has not really that many pass rush moves. Not a lot of technique there, but he is a good run stopper. Or he is a very good run stopper. However, just a pass rusher, he's just been pretty much abysmal. I mean, honestly, I hate to say it. However, what you see from him back in Clemson, all right, is that usually he's way better when he's not going head-to-head against an offensive tackle, when he's not getting contact right off the snap. In a 4-3 defense as an outside backer, he's got a legit shot to make some noise because even though he doesn't seem athletic, he's super long. He did reportedly run a 4.83 at one point, which I think is faster than Chelani's. I'm just being honest. Also, the fact that he can cover some of those short area routes, but that's when he was at his best, really was not going against an offensive tackle head-on because he could play on the outside, he could fan out for the short area routes, short flats and stuff like that, but you can use him on stunts inside because he's tough for guards. Now, I don't think the role will be very big, but he can at least compete for that role. And really up to this point, I know the injury's been a factor, but we haven't seen much of him defensively. So at least this is a chance, for him with the Detroit Lions. All you want is a chance. And I think it's a chance. You can keep working with him as a defensive end because, now you're going to 4-3, maybe he's a defensive end. He's got the size of 6'3", 270. The issue is he just hasn't shown you enough as a pass rusher. So maybe you try him as an outside backer. I'm not saying it would work. Maybe good coaching on the defensive end could make him a better pass rusher because he has the physical traits, but I'm just saying it just hasn't worked up to this point. So at least it's an opportunity. And finally, Julian. Now, Julian's a weird one. I think Julian can fit in the 3-4 or the defense that we were running before because that's what he was drafted for. We just didn't get to see him that much last season for whatever reason. A 4-3 won't completely, I think, take him out of the mix. It may not be the best for him, but I don't think it takes him out of the mix. So he was drafted out of Notre Dame for what? Playing defensive end. What was the biggest issue? Stopping the run. What was he best at? Getting to the quarterback, right? So for the Detroit Lions, while I don't think he can start a defensive end right now, and I don't think he'll start over anybody here, I do see him kind of crazy, but hear me out. If you went to a 4-3, here's a role for him to keep him on the team and keep him developing. Put him at defensive end on passing downs. Put Trey Flowers at defensive tackle. What do you think? All right. Literally, Aaron Glenn told us he thinks he could play the 3 technique. So that would mean bumping inside Trey. So then you could just put Julian on the outside across from his brother Romeo. The best thing he does is get pressure. He can go against tackles. He can push him back. Shows a lot of strength. He's 252. But doesn't stop the run well. So at least on a passing down, they're passing the football. He's at his best. He's athletic. He's quick. Then he put Trey Flowers on the inside. That's a mismatch. Maybe Deshaun Hand as well. Whoa, look at that now, right? The issue is he's just not an all-down type of player. However, you could try to make him an outside backer in a 4-3. He just has to work on his coverage a little bit, be more consistent there, and he needs to be a better run stopper. But at least for now, it's a role, right? It is a role, and it's an opportunity to be rotational and just put him out there at what he does best. Hey, what do? You get after quarterback? All right, that's what you're going to do. So that's how the front seven could kind of line up. Some players can benefit, some won't. But I think, you kind of see what I'm saying. So secondary now. Secondary is going to stay kind of the same based on no matter where you go with it. But I will throw you a couple of notes. Watching the Saints, here's what I took away. Marcus Williams, who's their deep safety, one of their free safeties as well. That's what the Lions need, all right? The Lions need that. They don't have a playmaker in coverage. It doesn't have to be Marcus Williams, but they need someone like that. They need a guy to play deep safety because they're losing around. That's why I made the Trey Boston video. Go check it out if you want to. Then you have Malcolm Jenkins, right? I don't know why I forgot his name. Malcolm Jenkins. Now, Malcolm Jenkins plays half in the box, half that safety. Who does that for the Lions? Tracy Walker, similar size. What else can they do? Man coverage. How many times did Tracy Walker get tested with man coverage last season? I think those guys are going to be used very similar. Aaron Glenn is going to make basically Tracy Walker their Malcolm Jenkins at a young age. Now, he won't be probably the same player, but they're going to try to use him like that. And finally, it brings me to Will Harris. Now, this is an interesting one. Don't think it'll happen. But if the Lions did want to move on from Justin Coleman, and he would have to compete for this role because I don't know if he'd win it. But I can tell you this: Will Harris played slot in college, and he also has played some slot with us with safety. Saints like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is because yes, he's good in coverage, but he also has versatility to tackle and play safety. That's what Will Harris has. They could be looked at in a similar light. So I'm not saying he would, but he could at least try to compete for that spot if you decided to move on from Justin Coleman. I think if you did a June 1st cut there because you spread the guarantees out, it'd be $9 million saved. So I'm just saying, I don't think it would happen. I think Justin Coleman stays, but the size is closer to what Will Harris, and he's also has slot in his background. But hey, I'm not saying he's there though. He didn't look there as last year as a player. He could even be our own PJ Williams, just a player that's very versatile, can kind of play every spot. Even if he's not taking that slot role, he could just play a very versatile player that kind of has been what he is, a role player, that kind of comes in when there's injuries, but also can play a lot of different spots. I guess, passing downs, you could put him out on the field if you needed to. So just a versatile player that can play in different spots. The Lions did go to a 4-3 defense. Here are some of the needs. Okay, like I said, deep safety. Also a linebacker. Now, here's what I'm thinking what it could look like. Linebacker could look like Jamie Collins on the outside. Don't know who would win the Mike linebacker role. Could Tavai try to compete for that? Could Jared Davis win that role back? I mean, he's never really gotten a shot to do it since his rookie season. I like Nick Bolton into the conversation because I look at him as a very pure 4-3 Mike linebacker. Look, we're going to talk about a lot of draft prospects, but I just kind of wanted to go over, how I think the defense could look in a 4-3 and maybe some spots that would need filling in. We'll talk about prospects and stuff like that later, though. But I'm not exactly sure who would win that, so that could be a need. And then maybe another outside backer. Now, like I said, with Austin Bryant, I think he could get potential reps there. Julian could get potential reps there as well at times. But I think you'll need kind of a pass coverage linebacker, right? Because you don't really have that right now on the other side. Jamie Collins can, but when I look at how the Saints have it built, I look at Jamie Collins kind of like their Demario Davis, a guy that can get pressure, but also drop into coverage a little bit, kind of does it all. That's what I think Jamie Collins is for us. But I think we could use our own Quan Alexander, who they traded for, right? A smaller linebacker. It made me think right away of Jabril Cox, kind of just that. Someone that could drop a little bit into coverage and also rush if we need him to. So that's kind of who I thought of right away. So maybe someone like that, like I said, a safety, which could be a free agent signing, like a Boston, someone else, I don't know. And then I also think you still need, you still could use more linebacker talent than that. You need cornerback depth and maybe a stud defensive tackle, maybe a stud, because what I talked about are good, but maybe a really good defensive tackle to fit in there that can fit the 4-3 scheme. Imada, who is a good pass rusher, but then they have the Sheldon Rankins, who's kind of the run stopper, right? They have the Malcolm Roaches. So, you just got to have that little mix in the inside. So that's just a few notes. But what do you guys think? I mean, I don't think it'd be a complete, blow up. It doesn't have to be. You don't want to get rid of all these guys still under your rookie deals. So at least some of them maybe get new opportunities, new life to get a shot here. But I do think, with Penasini and Tavai, those are the biggest question marks. Okay, with going a different route from Jelani Tavai, and you're like, hey, I kind of want to go to a 4-3, but we're going to have to move on from Tavai, and that's okay. Then do it. Penasini might still have a shot to mold to a 4-3 defensive tackle, but it's going to take a lot of work. So what do you guys think? Just let me know your thoughts, comments below. But from now on, man, when I do mock drafts and mock off seasons, I'm going to tell you what defense I'm going towards, whether that's a 3-4, a 3-4-5, whatever it may be, whatever my vision may be for it. That's what we're going to do. We don't know what they're going to do. I'm not saying they're going to do a 4-3. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.